Welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Are the most traded stocks in February a buy right now? Stay tuned to find out. We'll also get stuck into major world currencies. I'm Philip Tortevsky, and joining me are Wealth Within's professional traders Janine Cox and Pedro Banales. And together we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
How are we?
Fantastic, apart from the frog in my throat. But if I open my mouth and nothing comes out, well, then you might be cheering.
Well, I hope not. But
hopefully it doesn't come out anytime soon, so I just keep it in there.
Yes. But look, first up tonight, our hot stock tip is Telstra. Now, Pedro,
all right, guys.
Good about Telstra?
Yeah, well, look, I know Dale's going to kill me for this one, but Telstra is looking good, so let's just get straight into it. On your screen right now is market index. It doesn't really need any, introduction. Everybody knows it as Telstra, or some words before it, and then Telstra.
Dog stock.
Which I won't. I won't get into it. Come on, let's give it a go.
I actually like it, to be honest. I'm going to go out
there.
There
you go.
So I don't
Thanks,
mind
mate.
Telstra at the moment.
Yeah, good. It's good. We've got to jump on the bandwagon and see. I mean, it's looking good. Let's have another quick look. So, the dividend yield is 4.33. They have increased the dividend yield this year. They came out with a good report as well. They've recently released their annual report. They're still profitable, which is good. They're expanding. They're investing in new things. The debt's a little bit high, but they are still profitable moving forward. So I do like that. So in saying that, let's just get straight into the chart and see what I'm looking at here. We'll go to the monthly chart, and I've marked this level here that it's found support at, and that's a very strong support level here. We've got a bit of a momentum line here that it's also found support at, and you can see it's bounced nicely off those levels that I've marked, and it's trending all the way up to that $4.40 there that it recently formed back in 2023. So, if it does break above this level, I'm looking at $5.30 as the next strong resistance level. You don't really have many other levels here before it. So it's a nice clean run, I think, to that $5.30. Now I'll go to the weekly chart because there's a couple of things I want to mention on here. So recently, out of this reporting, you can see this strong outside bar that it formed on expanding volume as well. So it's broken out of this $4 psychological level that it's been trending across for many years now. And this is why they call it that, the DOG stock, as
it's
Jenny
been
said.
hobbled.
It's been hobbled, yes. Hoddled, yes.
Hobbled.
You're with the lingo. And you can see it's consolidated sideways, and it has that broken above, like I said before. Now, what I really want to do now is I want to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to actually invert the chart. And there's a method to the madness, so bear with me, right?
It's just going, what the?
What the? So now what I've done is I've turned the chart upside down. Now, if I was to ask you the direction of this stock right now, what would you tell me? You'd be saying, well, it's trending down. It's broken below these support levels, and it's actually on the way down. So if you look at it from another perspective, and I encourage people to do this with their charts so you don't get biased, is actually turn it on its head and then see where the direction is going. So then you're not always thinking it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. So
you're talking about a capital growth opportunity because it goes ex-dividend tomorrow. So if people are in it today, then they'll get the dividend, but it's more about the capital growth is what you're saying.
Oh, capital growth for sure. And the dividends don't hurt as well along the way. This is more of a medium to longer term play, maybe for a super or a long-term portfolio. So, it's not going to blow the lights out. It's not going to be the, 3,000, 10x, not in a hurry. But really, this is a strong and safe stock that is now showing signs that it's turning around. So I'll just flip it back around, and there it is there. It's looking good. I like it. So get onto it.
You must have watched The Matrix or something last night, flipping that upside down. Sometimes I'm confused, but...
And no hands.
No hands. Interesting. Very interesting stock. Good choice. All right. Well, that is it for our weekly hot stock tip. Right now, it is your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. So call now on 03 9290 9988, or you can text your question to the number on your screen. Now, the first caller into the show right now gets a free copy of Dale's book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So dial now 03 9290 9988. Now, while you do that, Janine will give her analysis on the major world currencies.
On your screen right now is a watch list of the major world currencies, and it's green everywhere today. So that's good to see, isn't it? The Aussie dollar versus the US dollar, we're up 2.59%.
I think you should screenshot that one for the Aussie
I think it's time to go
dollar.
shopping,
Yeah.
isn't it? Excuse me, I just choked on
There's
that
the
one.
frog.
There is the frog. You might have to take over.
Yeah.
Europe, we've got the euro dollar versus the US dollar, up 1.2%. there. And it's interesting because we've looked at the currencies and the top 5 currencies that are traded globally, the most traded ones. Obviously, the US dollar comes in first. We've got the euro that comes in second. And interestingly, the Japanese yen is the 3rd most traded currency in the world. The 4th is actually the
UK.
The UK, British pound. And then we've got, which is not there, is it? We're missing, oh, there it is, right above that. And then we've got the Australian dollar. So people are quite surprised about the Australian dollar being the 5th most traded currency in the world.
Well, what's different about this when you look at this watch list? Last year, it was the US dollar dominating proceedings all year. Every other currency was trailing behind the US dollar. Now, and I mean particularly since Trump got in, we've seen an absolute flip of the script. The US dollar's been pummeled, gold's starting to rise.
Yep.
How much are you placing on the fact that, you know, this new regime by Donald Trump is potentially, from what it seems like right now, hurting the US dollar?
Well, is it hurting it or is it benefiting the US by the dollar falling? That's the thing.
Well, okay.
It's got to look at it the other way, don't we?
Well, you could. You could.
And that's the way I am looking at it at the moment. But I think, you know, to your question, I think it's actually a benefit. That's my view, given the way that Trump's trying to push everything manufactured locally. But if we have a look at the Japanese yen's probably the place to have a look right now, given that this one is actually the 3rd most traded currency. And what's interesting to us right now is how this low here, this was actually, it looks like it's bottomed right now. So we've seen this bottom, we're seeing a test of the low, and it's not confirmed yet. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got a number of weeks up now, which is good to see. But this turning point was actually when when Japan actually increased its reserve rate. So we saw that go up quite significantly, but it's still extremely low compared to the rates that we've got here in Australia. At 4.35, is it, or 4.15 here in Australia, and then in Japan, I think it was 0.5, wasn't it?
It was 0.5. They've just raised it back then in January. So that's the reason why it's gone up 5.3 something percent.
Yeah, and I mean, if we just look at this simply and we have a look at where the signposts are for the currency, we can see that there's some significant resistance up overhead. That's 0.07, but also we've got that short-term resistance where it's at right now. So ideally, we'd see a little bit of a pullback from there, but it could just keep running on all the way to this level that I've marked here on the chart, which is good for the Japanese yen.
Thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. So it does look like it's on the way up, and I agree that this bottoming pattern here, you know, it hasn't gone lower than this previous low. And the fact that they're increasing interest rates, the jobs market is strong there. They've got high tourism. You know, their economy looks like it's picking up. So I don't think that this is going to be the last time that they're going to be raising interest rates, which is obviously very bullish for their currency.
Yeah.
Well, if you saw that, Phil, coming off that low, what would you think?
I would think that is interesting if you're looking for a long trade. But I mean, you know, when you're looking at that, obviously there's so many dynamics, as you said. And if you zoom that chart out, you know, big picture, the overriding theme is that the Japanese yen has been falling. So if you are looking for a long-term play on that Japanese yen, I like the fact that it is starting to consolidate a bit. You can see that, you know, the lows or the falls are getting less and less.
So could we be seeing a repeat of what happened in this zone here?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I mean,
definitely.
you know, for now we are seeing that, and you're getting those higher bases as you mentioned. So I would think a run up to where that horizontal line is probably on the cards. But as you can see with these currencies, nothing ever really extends too far in one direction without getting, you know, the pullbacks and the buyer-seller activity. So it's more of a trading type environment for me rather than what you often see with stocks, that big growth blow off here and there.
Many dynamics, yeah.
A bit more exciting than trading the average stock, do you think, or would you rather stick with stocks at the moment?
I say do everything, do everything. But that is it for our thoughts on the major world currencies. Let's now jump into more stocks and answer your questions. Saeed writes, in regarding IFT, the stock has shown constant growth over the past few years and has recently pulled back. I do not own the stock, but I am looking at maybe getting in when it goes back above the 50-day simple moving average with a tight stop loss. Now, in your opinion, is this a pullback or is it now in a downtrend? I am willing to hold it for the long term. All right, Janine, I'm going to go to you on this one because we've got an interesting question relating to indicators. We don't normally get that, a moving average. And the overriding question is it pulling back or is it in a downtrend?
Well, look, I think it's pretty clear, isn't it, it doesn't matter what the technical analysis is that you use, it's showing on the chart right now that the stock is really in a down move, and that's really a negative from the point of view if you're looking to go long on the stock. If you were short, then of course, you'd be pretty happy about that because you can make some money pretty quickly. But the problem here is it's taken out these lows, and for me that signals there's potential for further downside. So the risk is still to the downside. And I guess I was a little bit concerned about the nature of the question from the point of view of wondering whether you're wanting to know the answer to this because you're thinking I'm going to try and pick the bottom before the turn. And I'd really strongly suggest that you actually wait for some confirmation on that low. But look how far away that moving average is anyway. So, you can get whipped in and out. You can see that when the moving average comes around, there's plenty of potential signals to buy and sell, which is why we don't use them. I found that over the years they're really good for marking when significant cycle lows are going to come in, but not from the point of view of the actual entry trigger.
Yeah, and I mean to add further on something what you just said, which was very important in terms of asking the question whether a low is in. That is one, I guess, core component of being able to understand technicals well, is to identify reversals, know confirmation. That is something that is learnt,
over time.
Over time, and asking that question initially, you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're doing a lot more harm than good. Looking at a stock to buy, but not knowing when that turning point might be. So, from your perspective, Pedro, when you're looking at a stock like this, obviously in free fall, what are some of the signs you're looking for? From a general perspective, on when it would be a safe place to say, you know what, okay, it looks like it's starting to turn the corner.
Yeah, perfect. So I think that it's great that he's actually looking at some type of indicator at least, and we don't use the 50-day moving average.
He's trying to use something, you mean?
He's trying to use something, that 50-day moving average. We prefer trend lines, and if we get to the chart, I'll just have a quick look. So, you can actually get in much quicker if you were to use a trend line. You'd have to test, first of all, whether trend lines work on this stock. But, that's basically the trend line versus a simple day moving average. Now, they might converge and be very similar.
Trend line or momentum line?
Momentum line at the moment. Basically, I'm on the weekly chart here. I would prefer to be using a trend line just because it would have got me out at these earlier stages as well if you were in the stock before.
But I mean, let me ask you this question because, we're talking about reversals and significant reversals. Now, what you've mentioned is obviously one aspect of that, but what goes into, really identifying strong reversals is not just one piece of the puzzle. You can then overlay so many other elements to a stock, potentially where it's found support in the past, a whole bunch of other things to line up those probabilities to stack in your favour.
Yeah, the moving average wouldn't be enough.
It wouldn't be. Same with trend lines.
You took the question out of my mouth.
And actually, Saeed, it would have been great if you were to say, if it goes down to this level, I think that there's a certain support at this level. So if you were to say, all right, so it has broken below these levels here, that's the ones that Janine was talking about, say roughly around that $9.60 or whatever. But you could say, look, if it gets down to this level here where it's found resistance in the past, and then there's other criteria that it meets, such as crossing above this trend line or the simple day moving average. Of course, there's got to be multiple things that the stock needs to prove. Volume as well you could use before you know that the low is in, and volume is a very important one, and we're going to be touching on that later. That's a basic, quick outline of everything, but I do like that he's setting up a stop loss as well. He did say I'm going to keep a tight stop loss. So at least they're good little things that he's implementing. Yeah,
there you go. Some good elements there, Seed. Good email. Thank you. Now, next up is Peter, who writes, I'm holding S32 from $3.60. It's been up for 3 consecutive weeks, and looking at its past performance, similar runs have often led to another leg higher. Now, given that volume has been gradually increasing over the past few weeks, would it be fair to say it is setting up for further upside? Additionally, do you see signs of a broader rotation of money flowing into materials, or is it too early to tell? All right, Pedro, I know you love this space, mate.
Oh, yeah.
S32, a very interesting stock because, you know, it's had reporting recently. It's been involved with the whole aluminium embargo, if you will, and the share price seems to be holding up.
Seems to be holding up, and we covered this stock in one of our market wraps a couple of weeks ago. So I'll answer the question on S32, and I'll let Janine take it away with the material sector because I know that that's your little baby there. But in terms of the stock, I do like it, and I agree that it's showing signs of a turnaround. So it came up, it found some resistance around that $4 and then came back down. And it's not the first time that it found resistance at that level. So $4 seems to be a very strong level for this stock in terms of support as well back here. So it got rejected once, came down, didn't break that low, got rejected a second time, and now it said, no, I'm not willing to go any further down. I don't want to go back down to $2.80. I don't like it down there. I'm going up.
I'm loving this commentary.
I don't like it. So basically, you know, we've had a bit of an accumulation back here, in this sector here.
Stock's got a mind of its own.
It's got a mind. You can read it.
Well, I mean, on that point, how much importance are you placing on the fact that, or do you place any on the fact that the All Ords Index is getting hammered right now, mainly driven by the banks? You look at S32, the last 2 weeks are green.
Yeah.
Exactly. Does that come into your thinking when you're thinking a stock potentially is strong, or is it purely just
for sure
stock specific?
Well, from a fundamental factor as well, what you mentioned, that the broader market is falling, yet this stock is holding up. Plus, this company is well diversified. So in the aluminium space, they're well positioned. The Trump tariffs had a bit of an effect of this stock actually getting sold off a little bit. But like I mentioned before, it didn't actually drop below this level. And then they realized, hey, hold on, they're actually well positioned in this space. So it's been driven back up. So I like this stock as a whole. Just watch this $4 level right here.
It is strong, and I don't think I need to add any more because I think you said it perfectly, and it is one to watch.
The material sector?
With plenty of upside. So I guess that's the beautiful thing about this one. Once it gets going, you've got 20% to this level and 30-odd% to the all-time high if it does take off.
Yep.
It's important to watch this low, this outside bar here, if it takes off to the downside, because that would obviously mean it's going the other way.
Yep.
Now, just quickly to answer his second part of the question, do you think there's been a rotation in the materials sector yet, or is it too early to tell?
Too early to tell at this point. I mean, we're talking about the flow of money, so the beautiful thing about the charts is that tells you straight away. So if there was money going into that sector, you would see BHP, Rio, FMG, all ticking lots of boxes for us. And at the moment, while they might look interesting and should be on the watch list, which we're going to talk about soon, it's not right now is not the time to be thinking that they've started roaring in the right direction.
It almost came out. You almost said yes. You're getting close. She's getting close. All right, well, that is it for our take on S32. Now time for tonight's topic. Commonwealth Bank, Mineral Resources and BHP. What do all of these stocks have in common? Well, over the past 2 weeks, they have been Australia's favourite stocks on the ASX, or rather, the top 10 most traded stocks in Australia right now. But what other stocks made the list, and why is it important to follow the money? Well, for starters, knowing where the action is crucial for active investors and traders to be at the forefront of the next potential price boom for a stock. But does higher volume automatically mean guaranteed profits? It's often said sustainable moves in the market are often accompanied by increasing volume. Famous market players have highlighted volume as a key tool in their investment strategy. Take renowned stock trader Jesse Livermore, known as one of the greatest speculators in history, who made over $100 million trading the stock market in 1929, equivalent to $1.7 billion today. So how did he do it? He believed that price and volume were the most critical indicators of market trends. High volume indicates that a stock is actively traded, and low volume indicates the opposite. Now, Livermore used price and volume to identify trends, reversals, and breakouts. But is this still applicable in today's evolving markets? And is it useful in all market conditions and trading strategies? Let's look at Little Green Farmer, for example. Back in October 2020, we saw 4 times the amount of average volume pour into this stock, which signaled the start of its greatest bull run. And there are plenty more examples like this. And the best part is this information is easily available on the internet. Now back to the top 10 most popular ASX stocks over the last couple of weeks. Pilbara Minerals, Sigma Healthcare, and Fortescue also made the list. So let's take a look at these stocks and more. All right, well, that was quite interesting. Now, volume is such an interesting topic on the market, so let's get just straight into it. I'll ask you, Janine, when we're talking about volume, that also, in other words, is popularity, right? The most traded stocks on the market. Should you be trading the most traded stocks on the market?
That depends. So, whether I like them or not is the first thing. So whether they actually tick all the boxes, it's not just a matter of them being popular, shouldn't automatically mean that you're missing out or there's some sort of FOMO and therefore that you should be trading them. It's all about your set of criteria that you have and whether they're triggering rules, because some of those most traded stocks on the market can actually be falling. They might actually be in downtrends and not at the right time, the highest risk time for you to trade.
But at some point, I mean, as we saw with the famous trader Jesse Livermore out there, when you do look at volume, it's a popular tool out there, and it does make sense using volume with your trading to some degree, because more money flowing through a stock, something should happen, whether it's bullish or bearish.
I mean, look, some of the big stocks are often going to be on that list, aren't they? Because they're the most traded, they're the biggest, most liquid stocks on our market. So that's probably not going to mean a lot for those. But where you've got the smaller ones, like you mentioned, the pharma stocks, they could be ideal stocks to look at for some of those spike volume moves that happen, and then identifying whether the trend's changed. Yeah.
Now, Pedro, I'll get your thoughts on this. Obviously, volume is something that can be used on a broad range of trading environments, strategies, what have you. How do you specifically look at volume when you're, looking to do your trading?
It goes hand in hand with the price action for me. So you want to see price moving in a certain direction, and the volume is going to tell you how strong that move is. So, and in many times it's going to be kind of like the canary in the coal mine, First, like we saw with Little Green Farmer, you see that big volume coming in. Price may not jump straight away, but you know that something's happening. There's price moving, money moving into that market. So when you factor it in with the price movement, that's really where the major benefit is. So if you see price increasing on increasing volume, then that's a strong move there. If you see price decreasing with increasing volume, then that's an important factor there. But it also works in reverse. So if there's low volume and price is rising, then that move may not be supported as much.
Good point.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you just said before in terms of volume can happen today, but that might not necessarily mean the move happens today, because a lot of the time people think, okay, if there's a lot of volume, then I should see price follow immediately. But that's not always the case, is it? Yeah,
definitely not. So it's just like I was saying before, it's an indication to say, all right, have a look at this stock because there's money flowing into it and there's high trading happening. So you may start to have a look at the news around it, what's going on, and of course then the chart itself. So it's basically just an indication that something's happening. And then, as I mentioned earlier, when you see the price action moving in that same direction, then that's an indication yourself. Now I have to add, it's not a trading rule as such. You wouldn't just be trading and buying a stock just because volume is high.
Just because it's spiked, because a spike could actually mean that it's been traded out of market hours as well. There could be some off-market transfers that happen.
Yeah, great points. All right, well, time to give our thoughts on the most popular stocks on the ASX in February. Now, I'm sure you're going to let us all know, Pedro, whether they're a buy or not, all right?
Yes, let's do it. All right, so on your screen now is Mineral Resources. Now, isn't this one that had a major move recently? So have a look at the weekly chart there. It's really broken below those lows of $32. So it's headed down, and you can see the volume there. So this is exactly what we're talking about. This move is being supported by a big spike in volume. Now, in saying that, we sometimes do see that final blow off, that final move down on high volume.
That run.
Could it be the end of that run? Exactly. And to do that, maybe we can have a look at in its history, what's
Perhaps
happened.
on the monthly chart might be a good idea just to get the picture of the landscape on Min.
Yeah, definitely.
See where
so
it's
we could
come from.
Yep, exactly. So we could put the volume here. So we search that.
Not necessarily. Yep. Okay.
On the
Just
monthly
to
chart?
see a history, the full history of Min, and understand where it's going to potentially in this decline. Because if how much further could it come back to? As you rightly said, it could be very close to that turnaround, and there's some really decent support, potential support from that sideways move there.
Yep.
So that could be one indication. But you were just going to talk about volume spikes, because generally I don't look at volume on monthly charts, but when you've got lower liquidity stocks, sometimes that can give you an indication of a turn.
Well, yes, I think this one is pretty highly liquid though. I think it's a pretty well traded stock, but you can see that this low here was signaled by a spike in volume, and then price spiked up there.
Well, yeah, even I just quickly noticed, even if you go on that monthly chart, you can see the 3 times that the volume was highest on mineral resources signified the end of the down move.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So here, and then here, over here, and down here as well. Exactly. And look at the volume that we've gotten over here. So, like Janine said, it's getting to these strong support levels back here around $20, I believe, $20. This one is definitely one to watch. Yeah, we can both agree on that. I think all three of us can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is coming up to a nice level here.
All right. So potential with mineral resources. All right, next one.
Yes, please. Now, this is one of your favourites, Pedro, but I'm going to take it, and you're going to be sitting there wanting to say something.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I want you to jump in at any moment. Just looking at the long-term picture on Woodside, first of all, we can see that it's come back to important support. But let's go and have a look at the volume, and I just want to stick to the volume on this weekly time frame. We can see that it looks really low just looking at it there. But perhaps we should just bring up we can see that some of these spikes sometimes skew the volume and make it harder to see what's going on in the shorter term as well. So, but more recently, if I move that across, we can see that there's a little bit of a spike, and that was actually yesterday.
Last week.
Last week, sorry.
Reported.
That was reporting, wasn't it? So it reported and reversed
and then
this
now
week.
Reversed, yeah.
And a nice little bottoming, potentially bottoming scenario there, where it's found support off that prior low there. We've got a reversal. We've got some boxes ticked, as you were talking about before, wanting to have boxes ticked before doing anything on a stock. And this could be the start of it, as indicating, but it's not huge spike volume, not like what we saw on Min as indicating that that's always an indicator of a turn. I don't think you can gauge that from sometimes these bigger stocks it's not as easy to spot. Yeah,
definitely. I do like the fact that it has got to this support level here. And, as we mentioned before, it did report today. So this morning it actually reported, and it was a very nice report actually. So that's why it's spiked up there. So you've got these levels here.
Very early days though.
Very early days. You've got all these levels to get through, but that's the price that you pay for wanting to get to, get in at the optimal price. If you just think about these levels all the time, then you just will never get in.
Once you started, it was going to be hard to stop you.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, the thing is, we've also got a few emails or texts coming in on Woodside as well, so hopefully we can get to them
beautiful.
soon.
Yeah.
So we've covered off quite a bit, but that stock does look quite interesting
it does,
as well.
Yes.
What's the next one?
All right, next one we've got is NAB. Now, NAB's actually been hammered by the market. Reporting season is not kind sometimes, and NAB has actually worn the brunt of that. So with a reversal of that degree, I'd be expecting that it's going to keep falling and could fall for a number of months before we see a low come in. Could it be the same sort of scenario as what we saw back here in 2015? I'm not necessarily thinking at this stage that we're going to see that sort of long protracted decline. More maybe a few months down as a potential on NAB, and then we'll just re-gauge where it could go from there, because overall we've still got some good upside. So it could be just an opportunity to get in at a better price once it actually does turn around and provide an entry trigger. Of course, we're right near that all-time high of the GFC, so you'd expect this sort of thing to happen there. You've got to give it some room to move. So look, let's just have a look and see what this is. It's actually creating an opportunity is the way that I look at it, to get in there. So if I can grab that high there, and what you've got it there, it's actually down from that high around 16.5%. So if it comes back to find support from all of this, we could be down 23, see a nice bit of reversal back up, find some sort of opportunity on the weekly. Beautiful. And then, you know, might have another good trade on NAB.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
If to play devil's advocate, it goes below that level you've marked there, is that cause for concern?
Not necessarily, because it could go below it and then close back above it, or even if it closes below it, we still could see some sort of reversal back above that natural level, because often, as you know, stocks might go below these levels, and it doesn't mean they're going to continue to fall, but we just have to be patient.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, waiting.
All right, fantastic.
One for the watch list, though.
All right, next one.
Agreed?
Agreed, yes.
Gee,
Like
what's
that.
that?
A lot of agreeing
Is
today.
that three of three? Or?
We've still got 7 more to go, 6 more to go, so there might be room for
FMG.
disagreement.
What do you think of FMG, Pedro?
Yeah, so this one is a little bit of a mixed bag. And I always say, you know, FMG, I've never traded it myself because it's just so unpredictable. They're getting into hydrogen now as well. And that's some type of, you know, new field that they're getting into, and that's a little bit uncertain. But they've also got the iron ore side of things. So, you know, that's the fundamental side and the story side of things. But in the chart as well, it's just a little bit choppy and very volatile. So at the moment, you know, there's 2 levels for me. There's this, you know, around that $21, and there's around $17, $18, right? It's make or break between these 2 levels. If it breaks above this $20 level, then it's going to trade back up. We've got a reversal happening here. But if it breaks below this level, then we're moving back down, at least to test this low here. And what concerns me is that it's actually trading more to the bottom of this range rather than to the top of this range. Usually when you see a stock is more bullish, it'll be wanting to break above these levels more so than wanting to break below the
Okay, so
the
you
bottom
don't want
range.
this one on the watch list.
I think that
I'll have it on mine then.
you can have it. I'll give it to you as long as you give me a good one back.
Well, let's get to that. What's the reason why you like it?
Look, FMG tends to be the volatile cousin, I guess, of Rio and BHP. So if you're going to go for, say, Rio or BHP as a stock for your portfolio and you want a bit more growth, FMG might perform at around the same time. So it's important just to have a look at the history and see, you know, some of these nice runs that you get on FMG might be a lot better and healthier, even if they're short-term runs on FMG, than what you might see on BHP, for example, in recent years. But often you'll get some of these runs happening at the same time. It'll be the commodity related. So I would suggest keep an eye on the iron ore price too, definitely, to see what's going on there, because that will be a signal. But ultimately, like Pedro said, you've got to have the line in the sand. If the price goes up, then we're interested. If it doesn't, then we just let it stay on the watch list.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. All right,
Done.
another one.
All
All right, CBA, that's always going to be on the watch list. Most popular
Yes.
stock, highly traded stock. There's plenty of liquidity. There's always opportunities on CommBank. At the moment, though, we've got a reversal happening there potentially. And like NAB, we may see it come back, I'd be expecting, because it has run on longer than what even I expected it would, just slightly higher than the top target. So, you know, that's well and truly due for a little bit of a breather. And look, that's only going to help CommBank's share price in the end. Ultimately, it will just be preparing for another run.
Now, this stock is very popular, as we said, and I remember being in primary school and getting those little checks, and you could you know, invest in little stocks and everything like that. Obviously, I didn't keep it, or else I'll be a millionaire. But if like for the common investor, right, would you be happy investing in this stock and just leaving it in the drawer and forgetting about it for a couple of years? Do you think that CBA has got the potential to just keep on riding this momentum, you know, for the next couple of years? Because I'm not too convinced that this stock can repeat what it's done in the last couple of years.
Look, I'm not saying it's going to repeat exactly what it's done in the last couple of years, but I still see there's further upside for CommBank. I'd just say that you could potentially get it at a better price. So put it on the watch list, wait for that opportunity, and don't try to second guess it. That's the real point with CBA.
Oh,
Beautiful.
Yeah, look, I love it. Opposing views, and if I had to pick one, I'm probably going to lean a little bit that way in terms of probably the trading strategy is the most important thing with CBA right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, getting that right, whether you're short term, medium term.
Yep.
But anyway,
Agree.
expert
Don't-
time.
All right,
disagree.
What's the next one?
All right, PLS.
PLS.
Now, PLS is an interesting one, isn't it? Much more volatile, higher risk, Pilbara Minerals, but potentially as a trading stock could be better if that's what you're after. But in the short term, everything's down. So the challenge right now is we've got some downside there. It might find support at this level, but it could keep going. Could end up being one of my, dollar stocks that's struggling to get back to $1. Given that we're at $2 now, it's not that far really. So in percentage terms, though, that's probably a bit of a way. But look at it, what it's done. A lot of people thought that it wasn't going to go down that far when it found support and reversed back up so strongly. And I guess this is one of the things with volume. If we have a look, we've had much higher participation in the stock in more recent years, so it is really doing well from a participation point of view, but we just need to see that returned on the other side now and a rise back up, waiting for it to trigger something, but we've just made a new low, so that's telling you to steer clear now until some of the big money starts accumulating the stock, and that's really important. But right now, it's not a done deal. But look at the nice trend down there. You can see the nice angle of the trend. It's still well and truly under that.
And it's interesting that price, the volume spike that we had here on this down move. So on this down bar here, not a very, large down bar, but high volume there. It's quite interesting.
Well, it proves, or it speaks to the point we were just talking about before, in the fact that, if there is big activity or money coming through, it doesn't necessarily always mean that what follows straight away is a move up. But even on those examples, you can clearly see where those volume spikes happen not long after we've found a low. So, just be mindful of that, not to throw the stock away completely if it just digs down a little bit further, because the opportunity might be around the corner.
It could be, and it could be with Pilbara. So.
Next.
All right, we both like that one
Yep.
for the watch list. Now, BHP, that's going to be on the watch list of most people, I think, given the size of it and what it's done in the past. Though it's still struggling and just doesn't look attractive at all right now. It has to do a lot to convince us that it's going up. And one of the first things would be to get all the way above that high, around $43, because the trend could continue down. It could take out this low where the blue outside bar is, and I'll just go to the weekly chart so we can see that a bit closer. But you can see the bottom here where it reversed and people thought it was going to go up. We've talked about this regularly, and the story hasn't changed yet, but a move back below that low and we're still going to see that decline continue. So just watch and wait, really.
Yep.
Now, if it doesn't take that low out, at what point do you start getting excited with BHP?
Well, the first sign is obviously if it goes above this high here in February 2025, then you've got some potential for the stock to move back up. But the big issue with BHP at the moment is this resistance that's across there that it's got to get through. So that's what makes it a bit messier and why I like Rio over BHP at the moment.
Oh, right, okay. Well, we covered this stock actually as one of the hot stocks yesterday actually. And one thing that we liked about it is that they reported 30% loss in profit. Can you believe? And the lowest dividend yield in 8 years.
So you reckon it's got to turn around next year?
Well, I hope so.
So why didn't it get heavily shorted?
Exactly right. Why didn't it get heavily shorted? Why didn't it get pummeled like all the banks and everything? So the fact that it actually...
because a lot of the big funds have to hold it. They've got no choice.
That's a good point. Yeah, they probably didn't. Yeah.
But I mean, that is a positive, outcome itself. So potentially, given that $38 is such a strong level, we might be seeing... I'm not going to be game enough to call it right now, but another few more weeks up, you might be seeing a significant low on BHP.
Well, you think about it. If you're seeing, I don't know what the volumes are for the whole market at the moment as a whole, but if you see money going into a lot of these big stocks right now, including BHP, the money is coming in because people are thinking that there's an opportunity in some of the ones that are down. And BHP could be seen as, you know, having potential upside because it hasn't been rising in recent years.
And you can even throw some of those energy plays in there as well from that
point.
light.
Yep.
All right, next.
Next one. What do we have next? Bendigo. All right. So this is, if you've seen a shooting star in the other direction, this is it. You know, look at this bar, this gap down. I've never seen a bank get sold off this heavily or this quick. I'm not sure about you, Janine, but you know, it's broken below all of these lows.
Back to the GFC, seen plenty.
Yeah, is this what they look like in the GFC? This is, you know, I think that it actually rivals what's, you know, an initial move anyway, because we know that during the GFC they fell, they got picked up, and then they fell in a bit of a zigzag. But you know, it's broken below all of these levels here, and I think that the next support level that we're looking at is around this area here.
You think it might come
around
back to
$10.
that?
It could come back to that $10. Again, that large volume that we're seeing here was on that down move, but it could be the you know, that the last blow off, like we always say, that it could be that final move. Now the market hasn't taken it lower this week. It's opened and it looks like it's you know, closing on the daily anyway around the same level. We'll soon find out, but I think that when this one turns around, it could actually spell some opportunity because, you know, bigger picture, it hasn't broken above that previous high back of 2015, and it hasn't broken above the GFC highs either. So
A long way to go, potentially.
long way though, long way to go. But
So
I'd
you think
keep an eye on
it's
$10.
worthy of the watch list or let it go?
I would say worthy of the watch list, but not in the near term. I would just be looking at it maybe in the next couple of months.
Okay.
All right, next
All right,
one.
next one. Yes, please, Westpac.
Another bank.
We like Westpac. That's one definitely to keep on the watch list. And look
dividends,
at the
Westpac.
big outside bar that we've got there, reversal. You know, that's looking interesting in itself, but it's just hit a resistance level across here. There's still plenty of upside. I like Westpac. So if anything, I would have thought that this could be one that turns around quicker than the other banks.
Yep, I agree. I'd prefer this one to Bendigo.
All right, next I've got SIG here. Now, Sigma Health, beautiful rise. You just couldn't,
Sure.
you know, if you'd like to have that one in your portfolio, if any of you have got that, well, you're welcome to beat your chest over that one. Looking at the prior all-time high, it's well and truly progressed above that in 2005, but just trading at sort of around those levels now. And in the short term, given the volatility we're seeing, there's always a risk to the downside, so just watch for that. Watch for reporting dates. I'm not sure if it's actually already reported, but that would be a cautionary note there. Because these stocks, as fast as they can rise, they can fall just as quickly, can't they?
Well, that rise was, you know, after time came out the fact that that was the Chemist Warehouse
Yeah, they've taken over.
situation. So there was positive news that came on the back of that rise, but, you know.
I don't think I'd be putting this on my watch list.
Yeah, it's a bit extended. I'd have to agree. It's a bit extended for me. I'd just be kind of, you know, letting it ride.
Yeah, so what was that? About eight stocks to watch from
Yes.
the most popular?
We've always
Definitely.
got more. Do you want more?
All right, sure. Go for it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now we
beautiful.
thought we'd have a chat about some of the theories around, you know, spike volume and higher volume. If we have a look at the chart right now, you can see there that there's this whole period of this increased volume on Appen. You know, Appen's often a stock that's talked about. It had a beautiful history and then it was all wiped away. A huge correction, but I just love the symmetry of this chart and the way that it's unfolded with the rise and that fall. And now we're seeing the start of a potential new longer term move. But, you know, how long will it be? That's the question. It's up around $3 at the moment. As long as it stays above this low, and I'm just going to have a look here. We can't see any specific sort of spike volume here, but there was that initial increase in volume on week of the 2nd of August when it took off out of that low, and since then it's been supercharged. There's been a lot more trading happening in it, and I just think that's a big plus for this stock.
And the fact that that volume is falling off, but the stock is not actually falling with it either, or it's not rising heavily with falling volume. It's just kind of trailing off, and to me that looks like the market is waiting for some extra confirmation or some extra confidence to move on. I think that this is being picked up largely due to the AI craze that's going on, NVIDIA and things like that. But just recently it came out that Microsoft is decreasing their amount of data centers that they're paying for. So AI might be taking a little bit of a breather, but I do agree that this stock, may be looking good.
One for the watch list.
Yep.
Okay, CHC now. Charter Hall Group. This is a lovely chart if ever you could have one in terms of the way that it's unfolded. Just some really nice trends over time. But notice how these types of property related stocks and the falls that were there, 94.9%, just bear that in mind. The more recent one that we've seen is less than that, sure, but 60% fall. Always good to compare to what the market's done and the sector as a whole and see, but geez, it's looking strong right now. The all-time high is plenty, there's plenty of opportunity there to the all-time high, 26% there. Just looking at the weekly chart so we can go and have a look at some volume. You can see that spike volume happened there when, and I'll just quickly put the crosshair on there, happened near the high. Now you might have thought, okay, that spike volume looks like it's happened on the rise, but it's actually happened after the rise. So that tells me that the smart money was taking some profits during that time. Would I keep it on the watch list? Yes, I think this one looks really good, but it's actually run hard in recent weeks. So if you had a more, 12 to 18 month outlook, then this could be a good one. If you're wanting to trade short term, just wait for a bit of a pullback.
Yeah,
agreed.
All right, next one we've got. Pedro, would you like to do the last?
Okay, so Little Green Farmer, high volume, prices trailed off. We covered this one.
But you've got some extra things to say about it, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, we did see volume come into this move here. It has trailed off a little bit, but look at that, it's moving up again. And this is exactly what we were talking about it before.
The spike that causes a change.
That causes a change, and then eventually you get the price rise. So I think this one is definitely one for the watch list.
All right, fantastic stuff, guys.
You heard it.
Moving on, if you want to talk about a stock or ask a question, pick up your phone right now and give us a call on 03 9290 9988. That's 03 9290 9988. Or you can text the number on your screen. Now, whilst we wait for your call, let's get into our next email. The next question is from Rick. I purchased ALX at $5.10 about a week ago after it rose above a trend line for about 6 weeks. I have a stop loss of 10% and am trading it medium term. Do you think I made a good buy? Now, Pedro.
Yes.
Is it a good buy or a good buy?
I like it. I'll just be straight up. I do like, and I like that he's entered with using rules as well, above a downtrend line. And if you don't enter here, where would you enter? We always talk about, drawing a line in the sand, entering when it does this, when it does that. There needs to come a point where you make a decision and you just enter. And he's done that.
But,
good one.
just to throw it all out there, and I want to get your thoughts about this, Janine, because, when two different styles can look at this and think, on one hand, it's probably a little early. On the other hand, as you rightfully mentioned, hey, at some point you've got to bite the bullet and say, I'm making my call here, and potentially you're going to get the better risk-reward scenario by doing that. So for you, is it a little early or does the trade look okay?
It looks okay to me, and just having a look at the chart.
I wanted you to say a little early.
All right, I'm surprised.
Get the boxing gloves out. Look out. Just looking at the chart, I can see that there's probably a monthly trend line down there, and it may have actually closed above that. Plus, you've got this bounce off the low. Normally, I would like to see it come back and test that and test some of these lows here, because it may do that as part of this move. It's sort of stuck there a little bit. And I'd like to have a look at the daily chart and see what it's doing. You can see it's just not pushing higher at the moment, and sometimes you can see a break out of that.
Big volume.
If it took off, if it took off below $5, then I know that it's more likely to come back and and don't be too concerned about it. Doesn't mean it's going to go take out your stop loss. It may just come back a little bit to test somewhere around $4.80. So, but yeah, I think it looks interesting.
Now, in terms of the stop loss, again, I'll ask the question from your perspective, given where the stock is trading at right now, is the stop loss too tight or is it fine?
It's fine.
I think it's
Great.
fine. Originally, when I heard 10%, I thought, oh, that's a bit tight. But then when you actually put it on the chart, I can see that it does coincide with this low as well. So I like it.
All right, you've got 2 likes by the team, so good stuff. Now, we do have a text from Jeff who says, hi team, I'm interested in your thoughts on WDS. It has broken through the downtrend and retested its recent low of $22.97 and is potentially about to reverse. I'm thinking about buying it. If it closes above $26.18, for additional confirmation as it has been trending down for a long time. I'm looking for the short term, but happy to hold it for longer if the confirmation is on the monthly chart. All right, Janine, Woodside, I mean, we covered it a bit, but the real question here is, has it really based? That's what the question is. Has it bottomed?
It hasn't confirmed it yet.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the challenge. So, Jeff, if this low had have been higher, significant, a decent amount higher than the prior low there, we've also got the fact that it's been down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. So, it really needs to prove itself. And Pedro's put a line in the sand up here. But really, the bottom line is that he's got to make his own decision about risk and have proper rules to buy and sell, prove to himself that there's justification for it. But sometimes we're trying to be too cute and picking the bottom.
Yeah, well, he said above 26.18 was where he'd be looking. Is that where you'd also think is a safe place?
Yeah, I like that. I like that he's drawn that because, we're going through this bit of a sideways pattern. And as we know, sometimes these sideways patterns can be either, a reversal or a continuation of that trend. So at the moment, this is make or break. This bottom line here at $23 is the lower level. Then you've got the upper line here at $26. If it breaks above it, then it's looking good.
Do you like to see it test that level and then come back again, given that these lows are the same, given that it hasn't actually confirmed, that it's found support? Would you like to see, if it gets up to this line, wouldn't you prefer to see it come back again and test?
If I was in it, I'd prefer not to. I'd prefer to keep on going. But in saying that, probably not. I mean, it doesn't have to. For me, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I would say that, if it does break above it and it keeps trailing up, that next resistance level is at $28 to $29. But this stock, keep an eye on the oil price, on the gas price. They are the major oil explorer and gas provider, but they also function in the US. So anything related to the US is going to affect them as well.
All right, great analysis. Thank you. Now we do have a text from Michelle who says, hi guys, how do you think the reporting season will affect Wesfarmers? Thanks, Michelle. All right, Janine, it's a lady,
interesting, is it?
and she does own the stock, Wesfarmers. So,
look, I mean, reporting season is just like a black box. I mean, you just don't know what's going to come out in reporting season. Sometimes it's important just to pay attention to any information that's come out ahead of reporting season, just to see how a company's tracking, and you can keep an eye on that information from the company's website. As far as Wesfarmers is concerned, it's a good stock, big stock, but don't fall in love with it just because it's a great company and a great stock. You've just got to stick with your rules and have a nice, trend line, or have a good strategy that works well over the history of the share. And now, I mean, we can see the momentum there is really quite strong, but if it comes back and takes out this low, then we know that there's a decent pullback coming in. I don't see it coming below that low just yet, but I can say that if it takes out the prior low on the weekly chart, then I'd be thinking it's more likely to do that. So if we see it breach this 20th of December low, that week ending, that is 69.56, then that would be a bit of a concern and a flag to say there's potentially further downside. But looking at that longer term picture, if we put a proper trend line on there, not one of Phil's momentum lines. I don't know if it's a proper trend line there. You'll just have to, the students will be emailing me and say, Janine, you haven't drawn your trend line correctly. But, at the moment, you can see there that it's holding nicely above that, and it may just want to come down and test that line before it takes off again. It's quite possible.
And to me, these kinds of questions, when the concern is around reporting season, you've got to ask yourself, because generally speaking, you know, if you do know reporting season is around the corner, are you thinking, hey, I'm looking to get involved in this stock, even though it might provide you an entry? Or are you waiting for reporting season to play out and then move on? Because if you're already in it, generally speaking, from, you know, looking on the technical side of things, the timing of your entry shouldn't necessarily affect the what happens at reporting season if you've bought at a right time relative to that medium.
Relative to your analysis.
To your analysis,
Yeah.
to medium to long-term time frame. But if you're looking for an entry 2 weeks before reporting season, short term, and then you're worried about reporting season, well, you should be, because it might, you know, run 4 or 5 times the natural volatility.
Well, it could take off, is what you're saying, and
On both sides.
accelerate.
Yeah.
Both sides, yeah. But I mean, I guess, like you say, it's really based on your analysis and the rules. If the rules have triggered and it says, yep, ticking all these boxes to say go, then you're still going to make that decision and purchase the stock.
You would, yeah.
But you just have to set the stop loss. That's
Yeah.
the real point. I mean, I guess if you're trading lower liquidity stocks and they're highly volatile, it's going to be potentially, with some of those stocks, a 50-50 bet as to whether it goes up or down, because the company could release a good result and then the market absolutely canes the stock anyway.
Yeah,
So,
and it happens on the big ones too. So yeah,
does
very
sometimes.
valid point. All right, we do have another email. Ben writes in, a couple of weeks ago on the show, you were analysing De Grey mining code DEG, which I happen to own shares in at a purchase price of $1.23. Now, on a previous show, it was analysed and Janine didn't seem too impressed that it had risen sharply from a takeover by Northern Star. As she stated, if I was analysing the chart, as an analyst, I would pull out the tissues. Does a stock change personalities after a takeover, or is there any other explanation on why takeovers can cause headaches for traders? Now, Janine, I don't recall this one at all, but takeover happened with...
I think I've lost my voice.
But I mean, you know, obviously Northern Star and De Grey, there was takeover talks, which I'm sure you're going to get into. Do you mind covering what he's
Yeah,
talking
sure.
about here?
I mean, the challenge for any trader, technical analyst, is that if the stock that you have done all this work on, you've found a great strategy, maybe it's the cash cow that you've dreamed of for life, and all of a sudden there's a takeover, it's just like, you just want to beat your head against the wall, even for me. Like, you know, and looking at De Grey, I think there, in reading through the details, I believe it looks like that they're going to have they're going to acquire, not necessarily acquire De Grey, but create another company. That's what it appears to me. But, you know, someone may be holding the stock, someone else may be holding the stock at home. Call into the show, let us know what your thoughts are on all of that, because you may have a view. But at this stage, if the stock is going to be trading under a different code, then that could totally affect what the chart is going to look like down the track. Or if two companies combine and then all of a sudden you've got another company that it's trading under, and Northern Star you know, absorbs De Grey in some way, then, you know, that presents a whole new set of scenarios to analyse.
Well, we saw you know, an example not very long ago with Newmont and Newcrest.
Exactly.
You know, Newcrest was trading for a long time under a certain banner.
And then you've got this small amount of data on Newmont to try to analyse. You have to go back to the Newcrest chart to get a bearing on where things really are.
Well, that's the question. Do you? Because now you look
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because you're looking at Newmont now, and the volatility of the stock is much different to...
It is different, but, you know, there are similarities. I've studied some stocks where that's happened and still been able to use the history of the chart to give me a gauge on what could happen in the future.
All right, so let's say De Grey is, for whatever reason, still going to be around, and he's holding De Grey. Northern Star obviously gets in a piece, and there's some deal worked out where they're both there. Is it worth still playing the De Grey mining stock, or do you just get out and...
Right now, no, because they've made an offer and the board have unanimously agreed, and it looks like it's just got to go through a court approval and shareholder approval. Unless someone comes in from outside, you know, another bidder comes in, then it's trading at 204, which indicates that it's pretty close to what the offer is. So I don't see the point right now. I just wait to see what happens to the deal.
Yeah,
do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, as we've got here, De Grey investors will receive 0.119 of the new Northern Star stock for each share. So you got to wonder whether you want to be holding these shares or whether you just want to, you know, get out and look for a new stock. I know what I'd be doing. I think if there's too much uncertainty around something, there's no certainty around trading, but when there's too much uncertainty, I'd be looking to take something off the table.
Can I just say that one of the bugbears and, the get the tissues out moment is not just about, the analysis that you've done on the chart. It's look at this chart. Look at this to grey chart. The potential upside was huge, according to our analysis. So has Northern Star got a good opportunity? Yep. Have the existing shareholders got an opportunity? Well, it's not as bad as if they were completely taken over and then they didn't get to continue to benefit from any further upside.
Yeah, and look, it's not all dull. He's up 70% already, so it's a nice place to be when you've got to make a decision on that. But anyway, remember to send your questions to info@wealthwithin.com.au and we will answer them in next week's show. Here's what's happening next week on the Australian Stock Market Show. Next week in our main topic, we get into the top ASX ETFs to buy. If you love our show, remember to hit that like button now and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. For now, goodbye, good luck and good trading.